Welcome everyone. I'd like to introduce you all to one of the sacred symbols of the stars' geometries, known as Star Child. This symbol depicts the flow of energy from the top of the body downwards to womb center, which is an energy field of consciousness that helps a person to grow from past experiences. The womb center energy field is one that tells a person to be joyful after they have worked through a problem that they've been facing of some kind, and it signals that individual to let go of trauma and to embrace life again in all of its facets once they've moved on from a particularly difficult period that they've been through. However, sometimes a person can fail to do this if their grief is all-consuming, or if by chance they happen to not forgive themselves for something bad that happened to them or another person. The womb can hold onto tragedy and shock for an abundance of years if that individual never comes to a conclusion about something that occurred, and sometimes the womb can become shocked so severely that it collapses in on itself energetically, leaving it with no way of expressing outwards anything that it is aware of. This results in a kind of freeze occurring within that person, where they can no longer define what is happening in their now as real and truthful experiences, because a mass of old trauma will be wedged into their lower body with no way of escape. This leads to confusions going on in that person's mind about the here and now and all that is in it, due to old mass speaking from the womb up into the mind about a terrible ordeal that this person has been through. The womb instructs the mind to pay attention to it over and above anything else, because it wants the mind to know that it is suffering with an old-time signatures of stress inside of it, but the mind will find it almost impossible to pay attention to the womb's cries for help if it too was stunned into a powerless state of submission. This means that when the body is shocked with something painful going on, the mind could have had its own problems to deal with on a level of grief and turmoil troubling it. And if this is the case, then that person could succumb to a mind that is unwilling to listen to the womb until it's figured out a way to be powerful again. That way it can force old mass away from where it thinks, to help the entirety of that person's being to evolve into a new state of expression beyond that moment of disempowerment. The Star Child symbol is something that can help your mind to think new thoughts of evolution after a trauma has occurred, due to it detailing to the mind how to flow downwards to the ground. The mind needs to know how to look down in order for it to surrender waste material of thought, so that things like old memory mass can be exited from the body. The mind needs to view the heart's central point of love as a way to free itself from paralyzing thoughts, because this helps it to remember how to be powerful on a level of conscious now. The mind needs the heart to remind it how to think abundantly again, in a way where it sees clearly a solution to the problem that it is having with being presently aware. That way, toxic waste material of thought is let go of wholeheartedly, instead of only small bits, or none at all, being surrendered by the mind. The mind needs to see the heart and the lower body's womb center as something that can help it to evolve. Otherwise, a person can fail to be powerful enough to let an old tragedy go. Instead of that person purging old waste and them coming to be someone different, they can end up trapped in a trauma cycle that tells them terrible things about themselves, which can debilitate their life in a multitude of disempowering ways. A person needs to think down to heart from the center point of their mind, so that old waste is gotten rid of. That way, the heart empowers that person to be more cheerful instead of them staying in a state of shock. Each person needs to know that the mind's center point of energy exists within the head's middle, as well as that it communicates downwards to a point in the chest called heart center. And when these two energy centers are expressing themselves abundantly, and in a way that is based on the now time of life, then that person easily wills to them new experiences in their life that are joyful. While a person who is shocked into submission and held in a state of traumatic response cannot will themselves to do anything empowering, because their mind is fixed into position and unwilling to know anything other than the tragedy that stunned them to begin with. This is why viewing this symbol is something that I recommend to anyone who has lost a loved one or been through a shock of disempowerment where loss was involved, because this can cripple the mind's ability to be powerful. I also recommend that anyone who's been through tragic encounters where they came to be outside of themselves with worry or grief or unsureness, have a listen to all of this information at least 2 times, so that they can correct their thoughts to ones of an empowered kind. I also recommend this Star Child information to anyone who has not evolved themselves in a very long time due to disempowering events going on that stunned them into submission, because all of what I speak of will help you to flow downwards again, so that old times of life no longer exist in the center point of your mind, which is meant to be used for empowering thoughts of now. In order for a person to speak downwards into their heart center, they need to be receptive to the idea that they have in fact changed themselves since a moment of grief occurring, or since a time of many disempowering events taking place. Because some people can become stubborn on a level of thought, in a way where they convince themselves that no part of them is willing to forgive what has happened to them ever, because this is how they once felt in their past. They could have gone through something so terrifying or mind-alteringly bad, or something that bamboozled them and made them believe that they were in some kind of horrible dream. And if this was the case, then the mind could have frozen in that moment on a level of responding to danger, for example, and never come to be rightful again afterwards, because it was stuck seeing the world in a particular way. The mind can hold on to details of an entire event that happened to that person, and if it never comes to be powerful enough to let that imagery go, then this individual can subconsciously be aware of themselves as a terrified and under threat individual 24/7. This leads to them having no identity of self ever, all because an old time of life is dictating to them about all sorts of nonsense, and the mind is listening to it over and above logic and reasoning. This is why Star Child can help, because it tells the mind to radiate light out of its center point towards the outer field of mind, so that it can learn of things of a higher nature. When evolutionary content comes into the mind via its inner field of a knowing kind, it can then stabilize itself and tell itself to grow beyond a trauma, because it can accurately see that a troubling time of life is over with due to reality permeating its field of consciousness. The mind learns new intel, and it surrenders what it knew before, which leads it to adapting to an idea that an old time of life is over with, which then allows it to go in search of wasteful mass to exit out of the body. The mind needs its rays of light emitting themselves outwards in order for it to be aware of the now of that individual, so that should it want to check if the coast is clear to evolve itself, it knows without a shadow of doubt that it's okay for it to do so. The mind radiates light from its I am point towards the outer skull, so that clear and evolutionary thought comes into being within that person's head. Otherwise, that individual can suffer with them being under the influence of suppressed thought mass, or traumatizing thoughts, or powerlessness in the form of tragedy and shock energies of past, all because no rays of light are cutting through the gloom to enlighten that individual. The rays of light emitting themselves out of the mind's center point of I am can be seen at the top of the image in the blue zone of air over ground, or sky zone over ground zone. These rays fan out towards the consciousness field that exists in the head, that helps a person to be consciously now and presently aware. Each ray tells a story of direction and flow and nowfulness of center, so that the mind remains stable and consciously aware instead of it drifting off into a daydream. The inner formation that interlinks in a pattern that is never-ending or infinite tells the mind to be abundant in its thinking of universal thoughts, so that it does not become bogged down by thinking low-vibration thoughts, while the outer form is one that speaks of thinking thoughts up to the universal realm of higher, so that this person knows things of an intuitive nature. One flows into the other with outward expressions of thought that uses the rays of light from the mind's center point of I am to empower thoughts of an evolutionary kind, which means that the inner consciousness field thinks thoughts into creation with the help of the I am point of center, and when it does so, the rays of light help it to think abundantly and nowfully in a way where it is stabilized in the truth of knowing who that person is in their current moment in time. This allows them to think those empowering thoughts outwards into the second field around the first one, so that those thoughts manifest something into the reality realm of that individual that is different to before due to a change of thought going on. This outwards expression of thought is needed in order for that person to let go of old times of experiencing something painful, as well as for them to embrace life properly by them ingesting new content into their psyche of mind, and in order for them to learn of who they are on a soul level, so that the soul mass of being becomes empowered also. It takes new thoughts penetrating the mind's field of a knowing kind, as well as the one around it, in order for the soul to grow on a level of conscious awareness. This results in the soul then actioning certain protocols, where it then welcomes more chi into the body to help it to move waste down and outwards away from that individual's physical form. This all takes place by the mind being willful, as well as the soul knowing what to do to help that individual to evolve. The mind section of the image speaks of evolutionary thought changing that person's perception of now, so that old energy is surrendered from their being, while the wombs part of the picture talks of embracing all of what is going on above it on a level of change, so that a purging begins downwards into the lower realm. The green section talks of that person letting go in a significant way from all that has bothered them up until now, so that change can manifest in the day-to-day life of that individual. While the blue zone says, let's evolve by knowing higher intel that makes us feel powerfully truthful, so that no illusions rule over the mind from past times of life. Together, both the blue zone and the green zone speak of a need to move down the body anything that is worrying that person subconsciously, so that they can bring to them all that they need on a level of evolutionary thought. That way, they can manifest in their now all of the good fortune and luck and abundance energy that they need to take them forwards into their next expressions of self. The blue zone is a powerful space of evolution. Due to the higher realms speaking down into it, all of the intel that exists above the body that the higher mind has learnt about. While the green zone is something different, in the sense that it helps a person to let go and to integrate all of what they have been through already, so that the past is surrendered from the being. When one zone is malfunctioning due to the mind holding on to old ideas of submission from a traumatic experience occurring that shocked it severely, that person can then have difficulties with a lopsided mind. This means that it will weigh down its options instead of a balanced perspective being used, which causes a kind of reaction where that person fears evolution of every kind, because an old trauma is telling them that they should freeze or stand still or don't move instead of them gliding through life with ease. This weighing down or suppressing the free will happens automatically without that person trying to be that way, or because a shock occurred that stunned the mind and it has no way of letting go of the old imagery that once pained it. When the mind holds on to a past time of grief or disempowerment, it can cause it to shudder and shake on a level of chi, which can then destabilize all of the networks of chi within the body, which makes them useless and unusable. When this problem comes about, that individual can then suffer with nervous shock symptoms and a tightness of the spine, as well as things like the shoulder blades feeling painful in certain places, because of the upper and lower body no longer being in communication with one another. Instead, they will be at odds and unable to form a bond where they know themselves to be the upper body and the lower body areas. And this then impacts all of the central nervous system to become frightened 24/7. This is how fight-flight mode can manifest in unhealthy ways, as well as things like nightmarish symptoms of the past flaring up, all because the upper body no longer sees itself as mindful, while the lower body cannot see itself as grounded, which causes all of that individual to be unhinged and unstable on a non-stop basis. This is not a nice state to be in at all, as it makes nervousness become a problem, as well as anxiety and stress, even when that person has removed every kind of stimuli that could make them feel triggered and unsure of themselves. Instead, they will be constantly on edge and fearful, because all through their system of chi, which spans the entirety of the body, is a stun that speaks of a powerless moment affecting them. This shock residue talks to every part of that person's being in a way where it says, watch out, such and such is happening to you, even when all is calm in that person's world, which makes them frightened and paranoid that something bad is about to happen to them. In order to clear an energy like this from the physical body, a person would need to know the way down to ground with their mind's attention, instead of it only focusing on a past moment of grief that shocked it. As well as them also needing to know that their womb center point is responsible for letting go of waste material that speaks of the past of that person, so that it does not recirculate or come back up into the mind's awarenesses again from that person's malfunctioning body, causing waste to go back upwards instead of down and out of the body. A person would need to know the higher realm over the lower realm inside of their mind's center point, so that they only ever speak upwards to where the higher self exists to know evolutionary content, as well as them needing to know to only ever speak down to the lower self if they want to get rid of their past. This is because the mind can become boggled in a moment of trauma and come to be upside down in its processing of reality, which causes it to unknowingly reach downwards for help from the higher realm self, leaving it stuck hearing non-stop negativity or loathsome content due to that person having experienced painful events in their past. What this person needs is for their mind to accurately see that up is above the head, while down is below the feet, so that they only ever speak upwards to gain knowledge of how to move forwards from here, and so that they only ever speak downwards to the ground when they want to purge something from the physical body. That way, this person welcomes to them new life experiences, as well as abundant thoughts, and things like love and acceptance, so that they keep surrendering an old way of being, rather than them continuing to manifest a life that is stagnant and sedentary. The mind needs to recognize that new is above the physical body and that old goes below it. Otherwise it can fail to ever let an old time of life go, and instead it will recirculate old mass over and over again in a way where it never lets go of an idea that harm is coming to that individual, or that they are under threat, or that some person is out to get them, etc., because their mind is subtly aware of whatever tragedy happened to them before they began to malfunction. An upside-down mind center is one that rehashes the past relentlessly. It is one that never lets go of events in the now that made a person feel unsure if they were okay or not, because of subtle energies of trauma speaking to them in the moment of something happening. And it is also a mind that fails to ever let go of things like dream energy or daydream thoughts or unconscious knowing states of mind, because it is incapable of rightfully seeing the world around the body, and instead it will be lopsided and wrongful, overly paranoid, unable to see right from wrong thoughts, and it will have a warped perspective that says that this person is in danger of something bad happening to them all the time, which wears down the mind's ability to be powerful. When a person becomes this way, it can make them unable to live a normal life anymore, because their mind will be glitching non-stop and they will fear for their well-being everywhere that they go, as well as them questioning relentlessly if they are okay to let go of something disempowering, because their higher knowing says that something bad is going on because they are upside down in their awarenesses. Meaning that the mind perceives the old time of life as what will happen in the future of now, and it becomes sure that a tragic encounter is coming next, so it believes that it is best to wait and grow some more before anything important happens for that person on a level of evolution. While the mind is waiting for the coast to be clear, that person will be trying to do whatever they can to feel better and to do more, but they will not be able to will themselves from the spot where they are standing, because no part of them will want to walk towards a shocking encounter that they have actually already been through. A war ensues, where that person tries all that they can to fight against a tide of trauma, or a brick wall of remorse, only to keep coming up short and then giving up on being willful, because no part of them can break through the opposition that they are facing inside of their mind's perception. What needs to happen is for that person to accurately see the right way forwards, as well as for them to grow towards a future time of life, not their perceived one, that involves a past moment of trauma. That way they can will themselves properly towards an event or an experience that is evolutionary, beyond the now. When the mind is looking to an old time of life's awareness energy, instead of it rightfully seeing the future of now, It can leave it baffled and bamboozled and unsure if it wants to go on anymore, because a shocking ordeal is staring it in the face and telling it to submit all of its power. This makes it backpedal and shy away from knowing itself correctly on a level of allness, and when this takes place, it is possible for it to forget its power altogether, because it can no longer fathom itself to be anything other than submissive. This leaves that person compromised on every level of their being, due to the mind not recognizing the here and now at all, and instead it sees only past and damaging content of thought, and things like tragic encounters that this person has been through before now, which makes it unable to think abundant thoughts. When the mind loses its abundance ability, it can no longer think its way out of a problem. It can no longer steady itself into calm. It can no longer right itself after a shock has occurred. And worst of all, it can no longer ground its energy downwards into the earth realm anymore, which makes it unhinged and unable to know the truth of reality, which makes it even more paranoid and fearful. The star child symbol is something that can help people in this kind of predicament, because it tells the mind to connect itself to a central channel of thought that goes down the middle of the body to where it can speak with the womb directly. This then allows it to immerse itself in healing, grounding energies of chi that exist in the womb's construct of life material, so that all of the mind feels secure and stable enough to think empowering thoughts. This central channel of energy, known as the central energetic body layer, is something of a shield to the outside world within the body, so that the mind knows the truth of the reality of now. The central field is full of empowering messages that speak of evolution from past times of worry, as well as that person moving on from the things that once pained them. So it is a great source of will energy for the mind to use each day to be powerful. However, center can become corrupted if that person's mind goes haywire and it thinks negative thoughts relentlessly for a long period of time, because the central field will become flooded with wasteful thought matter that speaks of depression and that person not really enjoying their life very much. When center is full of waste and harmful thoughts of self-hatred, it can be very difficult for that person to will themselves to get up and live life to the fullest, because no part of them will be vibrant and healthy or wanting to evolve. Instead, boggy energies of powerlessness will emit themselves out of the central field of now, and they will convince that person to stand down and to not try very hard at all, even when that person is doing better emotionally or in some way that is mental. This is because the center of being is a structure of lightful matter of chi that can become polluted with low vibration thought mass. And when it is like this, all of the body reeks of a past time of disempowerment and shame. This causes all of the biology to change itself to a low vibration signature, as well as all of the DNA. And even the waters of the body can lower their vibrational signatures as well, causing a totality drop in the energy vibrancy to take place that cripples that person's abundant flow. When center becomes full of old waste, a person can find themselves unable to cope with just about any social situation or any kind of stimuli that makes them uncomfortable, because all through their body will be messages and prompts of, "You are not safe," "You're about to be harmed," "You cannot trust your awarenesses," or things like, "You have been tricked into thinking that you are safe." This makes that person on edge and unable to relax, and they will second-guess every thought that they have relentlessly until no mind energy is left. This then makes them feel exhausted on every level, all because their mind was freaking out the whole time, because something was bothering it inside of the body. When center is polluted, it makes a person fearful and worried and tense. It makes the body unable to relax ever, because it is stimulated by negative experience energy, as well as it corrupting the central nervous system in a way where it is locked into a state of fight-flight all of the time, due to its sensing danger on a non-stop basis. This is why the star child symbol is so helpful for people suffering with these kinds of afflictions, because it makes the mind aware of what is causing all of the problems with fight-flight being activated all of the time, as it makes the mind refocus its attention on the central body layer of energy, instead of it staring relentlessly at a pastime of life. Star Child also shows the mind a new way to think if it is stuck in a response mode of shock or grief or powerlessness, by it saying that there is a line of stability that the mind can use to balance out its thoughts so that old ones leave its conscious awareness. By now you will have figured out that the lines that connect the blue zone down to the green zone represent the central energetic body's field of energy, while the horizontal line has not yet been explained. This is because all of what I've told you so far has been leading you to a conclusion of thought, where you release old mass from your mind's subconscious. This line of energy from one side of the body to the other is a stabilizing chi form that speaks of evolution from past, in a way where sideways movement is used down the body, so as to remove wasteful content from the mind's field of energy of all. This structure of chi reminds the mind to flow side to side, instead of it trying to push down, as this is sometimes impossible for it to do due to another mass standing in its way. The mind needs to gradually ease some masses out of its place, where it is stuck expressing itself. Otherwise it can be up against opposition from other energy held within the body that is stubborn or stuck itself, causing twice the resistance, or more than that, if another stuck energy exists beyond the second one. This side-to-side flow down the body can only come about when chi exists in the heart center point of chest, and it fans out along a line of balance underneath both armpits. This is what the horizontal line represents in the picture, a connection of flow from one side of the body to the other through the heart's field of unconditional love. The heart's love chi is something that soothes and reassures. It coaxes and calms, and it tells all of that person's being how to be powerful at expressing the now, so that no part of the body's energetic or physical structure decides to take a look at the waste that is leaving the body. This means that unconditional love chi is something that can tell a person to let go wholeheartedly from every part of themselves, so that a totality of mass of trauma can exit the form of being of that individual. The heart stabilizes the mind and womb areas so that they tell everything around them to be strong and determined, so that when the mind decides to send down thought mass of shock or tragedy or pain, no part of the totality of that person becomes disempowered by what is being passed down the body as waste material. Instead, everything pays very little attention to it, and it just keeps moving it on to another area until it is let go from the being. It then becomes stored beneath the body as the past of that individual, in a way where it never speaks to any element of that person's structure of being ever again, because it has been silenced by the earth energies of chi that null and void all expressive qualities of that mass of energy. The mind passes down all traumatic thoughts, as well as all images that speak of what happened to that person, as well as all biological response energy and trauma signatures, so that they no longer exist in the physical form. The ground zone then swallows up all of what has been handed to it by the body, and this causes a chain reaction to occur where that person raises their vibration, all because dense and heavy energies have been let go of. When the mind knows that the past is gone, it signals all of the structure of chi within the body to lighten up and ingest more lightful content into them, so that they become empowered to be more vibrant. This then affects every part of that person in a positive way, where they become more abundant and able to manifest what it is that they want next, due to old and boggy energies no longer blocking their path forwards. This is how the Star Child symbol works. It guides you on a journey of thinking in a certain way, so that you let go of stubborn energies held within your body. That way, you can easily will yourself into a new vibration of thought that says, anything is possible now that I have surrendered a past that was bothering me. Star Child tells you how to let go in a powerful way of all energy types that sabotage your mind's ability to see clearly the way forwards from here, as well as it also retraining your mind to think abundant thoughts again after it has become stunned into a state of operation that is wrongful. It is a symbol that can help you in a multitude of ways when you know what it means, as each time that you go through this content, you are more relaxed and more willing to let go, as well as you also being more thoughtful in a powerful way, which then helps even bigger clumps of toxic waste to exit your physical form. Star Child is something that can correct your thoughts to ones of self-empowerment, as well as it helping people to see clearly who they are right now over any other time of their life. And this makes that person able to overcome things like grief and pain and powerlessness far more easily, due to them knowing the correct way to flow down their body. Just by staring at this symbol and knowing the thoughts that you now have, you can be more capable of moving on from trauma. This then frees up a lot of your energetic resources so that they will you forwards, instead of them being used to suppress your mind's awarenesses so that it does not know something from your past. A lot of good changes can come when you know about the mind's radiation of light and how it is connected to the higher realm, as well as how your mind needs to be stabilized by your heart and its unconditional love chi, so that it is empowered always to let go of what it has thought before. It is also beneficial to know that when your mind is engaged with positive thoughts of reassurance, such as the kind that you have had while you've been looking at the Star Child symbol, it can decide to surrender all of what it thought before now, which helps you to evolve as well. And if that is all that you get from this recording, due to a stubborn mind not allowing you to change in any way, just know that the next time that you listen to this information, your mind will act differently, and it's possible that it chooses another kind of response, and again after that. So don't give up hope if you are traumatized severely. Sometimes the mind needs a little nudge in the right direction first, and then it's more willing to change its thought patterns to ones of a healthy kind. Just try again and let yourself hear the words that I'm saying to you while you stare at the symbol that is telling you the same information. That is all that it takes to get stubborn mass away from the mind's center point, so that it believes in its own power and it comes to be expressing signatures of now. Well, that's it from me, everyone. I hope that you've got something out of what I've shared with you all, and that you are now more aware of how to get waste matter of thought out of your physical body. I would love it if you commented on my post and that you share with me anything that you feel about this symbol and how it affected you as you listen to the content that I channeled for this recording. It is the first time that I'm doing anything like this, so any encouraging words means a lot to me, as well as any feedback that you give, because I'm trying my best to be a powerful person again after tragedy and shock took me to a place of me being completely frozen inside, and all of my world has drastically changed ever since. If you've enjoyed this post, then please let me know, as it will keep me feeling like I'm getting somewhere with my own evolution, even when it seems like nothing has changed around me for a very long time. If you feel guided to, I would love it if you shared this post or put a like on it, as it encourages YouTube to suggest my work to other people. This then allows more people with things like PTSD to find my content that can possibly offer a solution to the issues that they have been facing with a malfunctioning mind and physical body. Thank you again, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you all again next time.